Good evening, everyone. The time is 7:30, and it's time to begin the regular board meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time, and I would ask you, if you will, to join me in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome. Just a few housekeeping details. First of all, we want to welcome Mr. King, our solicitor, sitting over here in the gray suit. He's here this evening. If you came late, he's been with us since 5 o'clock. We did not feed him supper, so he's here with us this evening to keep us on track and give us some advice, but also kind of see what's going on here from the community and hear other things. So welcome, Mr. King, as our solicitor. Also, we did start with executive session this evening at 5 o'clock. We met till approximately 6:30 to discuss legal matters and the lawsuit and some other things for the district. Upon conclusion of that, we did go to policy committee meeting. That meeting didn't go real long. Mr. Foreman led that starting about 6:45, and then we had committee of the whole. Is there anything else I have to announce, Donna? Very good, thank you. We'll now move into the regular meeting, student, staff, recognition, and board reports. Caleb, do you have anything to share this evening?
Not tonight.
Thank you, Caleb. Thanks for being here. At this time, BSEA, our educational institution for Big Spring, Mrs. Patrick and Mrs. Fernandez would like to share some information. Please.
Hello, good evening. Hello to everyone in the audience. We're very excited to be here and share with you a number of staff updates. As a reminder, my name is Lauren Hetrick, high school social studies teacher and department chair, and I serve as president of the Big Spring Education Association. With me is Mallory Ferrens, instructional coach at Oak Flat Elementary, and she's president-elect of the Big Spring Education Association, or BSEA. So there are 3 topics that we're going to share with you tonight. The second one is going to take most of our time. But first, just some introductions, who we are and what our purpose as an association is. Secondly, focusing on the professional learning and continuous growth that has been undertaken by our professional staff and the immediate positive impact it's had on the student experience. And before we leave, giving you a short preview of other building reports that you'll see throughout the academic year. So the role and purpose of BSEA, we represent the professional staff. And the professional staff includes teachers, counselors, instructional coaches, school nurses, school psychologists, athletic trainers, the homeschool visitor, and career coordinator. I apologize for reading directly off the slide, but each of those groups are equally important to our students' educational experience at Big Spring. As an association, we collaborate with administration to support the faculty and help maintain that educational environment that is conducive for student learning. We ensure that policies and procedures are being followed, and we assist administration in the implementation of district goals and initiatives. We're not adversaries with administration, we are partners. We're collaborating on a team because our ultimate focus is to see our students succeed. And a key component of that is making sure the staff have what they need to be supported, to be successful, again, because our focus is always, always on our students. We have open lines of communication. Both sides are open to feedback, and I am extremely thankful of the positive relationship that we've built over the years. Talking about professional learning and continuous growth on the part of the Big Spring faculty. When you think about professional learning, the first thing that might come to mind is in-service days. On the district calendar, it's listed as staff development. Those days are very important. We have 10 of them spread throughout the academic year. Some of that work is done over the summer. And we, of course, have our early release days, and there are 5 of them. We acknowledge the scheduling challenge it can pose for our families having those early release days on the calendar. From the staff perspective, we are very thankful to have that time. By having our in-services spread over the course of the year along with the early release days, we can have continuous check-ins, monitoring of our goals, what we're focusing on. If we front-loaded everything to the beginning of the year, we could not be as successful as we are. Much of what we do as educators is not with students sitting in our classrooms. We do a lot of work behind the scenes. We have professional learning communities in the majority of our buildings. Staff members getting together over a common need, a common challenge, a common part of their practice in which they want to grow. We have differentiated supervision and student performance measures. This is part of our supervision as professional employees. Non-tenured employees have observations from building and district level administration. Tenured employees do have formal observations. Every few years, there's a cycle from their building administrators. Tenured staff who are not in that formal observation year get to decide if they would like to participate in self-directed professional development or in collegial development. Staff members from the same building, different buildings, different departments, again, coming together, what is a common need? What is a way in which we want to improve as professionals? Our students' performance measure, all professional staff participate in some form of action research. We're identifying a need. We're developing a plan to try to improve for our students. It's absolutely incredible. It's a lot of work. But one of the things that we do is we think about what's that next step. Even if our action research plan proves to show positive student impact, what can we do next? We're in that constant growth mindset. There are faculty meetings every month. There are grade level and department meetings. Grades 4 and 5 are now departmentalized, so it's very important that time is dedicated, for example, all 5th grade math teachers, one at each of our elementary schools, to have a chance to get together, to collaborate, celebrate the victories, and keep our eyes on our goals for the year. Collaborative planning time is in the majority of our buildings for our professional staff. Again, a chance to work with our colleagues. We learn so much from each other. The majority of Big Spring faculty participate in individual or team coaching cycles. You've heard it before. You're going to hear more about it in just a little bit. We are very, very lucky to have instructional coaches at each of our buildings. Dedicated staff who have boots on the ground with us as classroom teachers to help support us in what we need. Although we have a very, very experienced faculty, it's important to realize we may need to go outside of the district for some professional learning. An example is a speech-language pathologist attending a session at the Capital Area Intermediate Unit focused on how to provide additional speech supports for students who are deaf and hard of hearing or visually impaired. When we realize that we need to build our own knowledge base, we're not afraid to go outside. Professionals in any field are consistently learning new information. Think of a surgeon. A surgeon who uses the techniques learned during residency 20 years ago may still yield positive and successful results. But the best surgeons are the ones who are learning new techniques, implementing the current best practices in our field. And the Big Spring professional staff take pride in being continuous learners, once again modeling one of the most important elements of the profile of a graduate. A few examples to share with you. K-12 counseling and secondary business. The example of professional learning is learning how to use Smart Futures, a career portfolio platform that was approved by the board back in May. Thanks to Kylie Shaw and Jocelyn Krause from the high school counseling department, as well as Sherry Powell from the business department for sharing this information with us. Smart Futures helps us meet our PA career education and work standards, which is a connection to a need identified in the TSI plan. There was training for all high school staff during that in-service time on October 14th, and we're looking forward to learning more about it. The direct impact on the student experience from this platform helps to streamline career development process for grades K through 12. You don't often think about career development for elementary students, other than what would you like to be when you grow up? But having a focus from the beginning of what we need for all of our students is just one of the things that makes Big Spring incredible. Career Portfolio is included in this platform to track the evolution of student interests from that elementary to high school, a variety of micro-certifications, videos, resources, mini lessons to connect to those student career interests. We apologize that this is so small. These are a few screenshots. On the left-hand side is a sample student gradebook. A number of the artifacts that are listed there are already things students are completing in career project seminar at the high school, for example. A resume, a cover letter. This can be accessed by relevant teachers as well as that high school student's advisor, who is with them all 4 years to help them as they're working on their career planning. On the right side, that screenshot shows opportunities for student reflection, which is embedded throughout the platform. Shifting also with the high school, thinking about environmental science. The example of professional growth creating curriculum for the new STEELS standards. As you know, Big Spring, we are ahead of the required deadline from PDE for the implementation of those new science standards. Thanks to Maddie Bentz on behalf of the entire science department, which includes Sean Donaldson, Amanda Frankfurt, Sarah McCoy, Bob McClure, Heath Myers, and Travis Barnes. The impact on student success that has been shared with us from the science department includes increased student engagement and critical thinking through open-ended questioning and discussion strategies. Science is a discipline you don't normally think about being discussion-based, but integrating some of those skills along with their science content learning. Students asking more complex questions that drive their content learning. Students, I love this one. Students using their learning to create action plans around Pennsylvania-specific issues that increases the relevancy of what they're learning. Immediate application to the local community. We just saw that in the committee of the whole with the students that worked with that grant. But partnering with community organizations, ensuring that the student learning is also aligning with current trends in science careers. Groups that the science department has worked with over the last few months, the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, Kings Gap Environmental Education Center, right in our backyard, and the PA Game Commission. Here are some photos. On the left-hand side, you can see a forest fire lab, students being able to see the impact of forest management and its ability to mitigate forest fire damage. Yes, you can see a student on the right-hand side with his cell phone. His job in his particular lab group is to be a recorder, to be a data collector. So also included in these labs are appropriate use of technology, and it's just a wonderful thing to see. And on the right, you can see students capturing observations about their ecosystem, then developing questions and ultimately criteria about what makes up an ecosystem. Also at the high school, a focus across the board has been AFLEX. So this has been a topic that has been brought up at previous board meetings as well in an effort to support the TSI plan. Several times through faculty meetings and professional development time, high school teachers have been exposed to effective strategies and instructional practices to make the best use of AFLEX. Many opportunities have been provided for staff to share what's working in your classes, what are some of your needs. There is a high level of accountability on the part of the high school staff, which is wonderful. BSEA wants there to be high expectations for teachers, but additionally making sure that the supports are in place to make sure they're able to hit those marks. So the accountability is there, and also choice. Choice on the part of the teacher to consider their class and what their class needs and make the appropriate instructional decisions. The anticipated impact on the student experience, we're excited to see what the data yields as we move through the school year, but it is beneficial to all students. Additional practice, acceleration, previewing, even those students that have demonstrated proficiency on the content, this is still an effective use of time. So I'm going to hand it over to Mallory, moving from the high school level to middle school.
All right, so we are going to start with ELA, English Language Arts in the middle school. The professional growth that they really focused on, they wanted to share about, was their instructional design around Amplify, which is their resource in grades 6 through 8. This is their second year of using Amplify. So the first year, anytime we're using a new resource, it takes us a little while to get our feet under us. But second year is when we really start playing with instructional design and what that looks like. So we've got two sort of stories from our 7th grade team and one from our 6th grade team. So from Emma Shutt and Jessie Bortner, who are 7th grade ELA teachers, they're talking about the increased student engagement via personalized learning experiences that they're able to build in using the same Amplify resource that the other grade levels are using. Really cool to see how that's a little bit different in 6th grade. In 6th grade, Chelsea Piper and Sharon Beatty shared with us that they are seeing a really significant increase in writing productivity from their students, as well as their digital literacy skills and online tool skills as they are in the platform, partially online and partially learning, and obviously with the teacher in front of them. The consistent lesson structure, they're reporting from 6th grade, frees up the students' mental energy to learn the new content and dig into rich texts because they know what to expect from the lesson structure throughout. And I do want to go back just a quick second to the engagement piece, because you're going to hear me say the word engagement a ton throughout this session, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear that when we say student engagement, we're not talking about student entertainment. We're not talking about just fun times for everybody in the classroom. We're talking about relevant learning experiences that students find valuable and that they're willing to persevere through and stay engaged in, even when maybe the teacher isn't there saying, hey, you need to get to this, you need to get this accomplished. Listening to the middle school students, high school students now, but the students who shared, like, that is engagement, right? They persevered when things were tricky. They were willing to spend their time outside of school tackling that project. That is student engagement and relevancy. So that's ELA. We're going to move to science. If you talk to any of the middle school science teachers or students I've heard recently about the changes in their curriculum, we have heard incredible things from what's coming out of middle school science experiences as they are diving into steels with Open SciEd. So students are driving the classroom learning in middle school, and they're being exposed to a scientific phenomena. They pose their own questions and work through that to build their own understanding of what's going on with that scientific phenomena. They're seeing significantly increased student engagement, here we go, and critical thinking skills as students are engaging in productive classroom discussions. Their students' enthusiasm for science learning is through the roof right now, and teachers are really excited, students are really excited. They're making connections between their scientific knowledge that is really complex, some of it, and also everyday experiences. So they're bringing in, they're talking about how a one-way mirror works, how the light angles impact that, bath bombs, and what the chemical reaction is there. They do a scent lab and talk about the molecules and how those, the alignment of those changes, whether you smell a vanilla smell or a lavender smell. So all kinds of things that I was like, I don't know that, and I am definitely not in 7th grade. So it's really incredible to talk with the teachers about what they're doing in science. And I will say that's an example of our lab there on the left, and left and right are the same unit. So the one-way mirror, the light refraction unit where they're doing hands-on lab, and on the right, that model that those two students are working on, I know it only looks like one, but you see the other hand there, that they did that in about 10 minutes and working together. So really incredible. In the middle, we have the scent lab coming from 7th grade. So we are very, very lucky to have such dedicated teachers and really incredible resources that we, curriculum and resource, approved very recently by the board. So thank you for that. Also, a big thank you to Jen Long, Millie Gilbert, Keena Morgan, Ava Duncan, and Crystal Grossman for providing that for us. So high school, middle school, now we're coming to elementary, of course. So elementary, we're going to talk a little bit about ELA and writing. Some of that professional learning is designing and engaging learning for students, writing professional development that we did last spring, and structured literacy trainings that have happened last year into this year. From the teachers, we are hearing that their increase in authenticity improves the student investment and enthusiasm for their learning. They're sharing their learning about their reading with families via Seesaw, which is a communication app that we use at the elementary. And students are super excited to share their favorite part of a book and cite evidence with their families at home. Also talking about connecting text to recent events, so looking at what happened in North Carolina recently and talking about how a mobile library maybe is something that could impact families down there who no longer have access to those resources. As well as the authenticity piece, we also got a great example from one of our 5th grade teachers, increase student clarity and ownership over their reading fluency. So we're teaching students about reading fluency, what it is, why it's so important to understanding text when you're reading, and then giving them the ownership over, set your own goals. Let's monitor what you're doing. Are you growing? Yes, you are. That's incredible. We're going to celebrate that. So that piece happening with 5th graders is really incredible to see. That's our reading piece. Going into writing, connecting the work that our teams did this summer to revise our writing and our reading curriculum is incredible. It really creates a double layer of the reading comprehension skills showing up in our writing tasks, and that is reinforcing our students' learning and deepening their understanding because they're writing about reading, and those reading skills are coming up in the writing piece. Sorry, that's a little jumbled way to say it. And then last, they're writing more frequently. Students are writing every day, and they have prioritized feedback that allows them really to focus in on specific things. So if you look at the top left, that's a slide from one of our 5th grade teachers at Mount Rock, this is what the goals that she's setting with her students, teaching them about reading fluency and how to monitor their own reading. On the left bottom and the right side, we have students writing from 2nd grade, and they are on the left, they're following they're using their reading comprehension skills in their writing, so showing a really deep understanding of what they're doing. And on the right, we have following a sequence. In the middle, I know it's a little hard to see. You just have to trust me. There's tiny little hands there that are holding that book. That's a screen grab from a student's Seesaw in which the student was reading. A part of the story said, what my favorite part of my story was this, and this is why I enjoyed it so much. And that's a family engagement piece that allows a higher investment from students. So thank you to, I'm almost so close. Leslie Losey, Kate Steinley, Heather Balich, Tessa Brenize, and Tiffany Warner for sharing with us about that. And then the last one, I promise we're almost there. Elementary school math, similar ideas. We're designing engaging learning. Our 4th and 5th grade teachers in math did a book study in building thinking classrooms in math and writing across the content areas. Increase student explanations in writing to demonstrate what they understand about math skills. Increasing their student engagement through choice, variety, safety to make mistakes. It is really, really tricky to get students to feel vulnerable in big spaces when they're doing math in front of others, but having that safety to make mistakes is super, super important for our students. Increased collaboration as they're using vertical white spaces to make their learning visible to others, and also increase student enthusiasm and energy through the grouping and transitions between learning activities. So on the left, we have some vertical white spaces in one of our classrooms where the students are collaborating, making their math learning visible. In the middle, we have the written explanation of how you would solve a subtraction problem. And then to the top right, we had a student choice where they were able to create their own open-ended story problem and then create a visual that represents what you would do to solve that math problem. And then the bottom right, we have our youngest learners in the district, so our kindergarten classroom working together to solve their math work that they're doing right there. So big thank you to Steph Devenold, Amy Lehman, Heidi Weston, and Lindsay Graham for sharing those experiences with us. Now, I'm done talking about other people's experiences. I'm going to talk a little bit about our instructional coaches at the district. So you might be thinking, holy cow, Lauren and Mallory have now just spoken for so long about professional learning, and we've only given you like a tiny little snippet of the professional learning that happens in our buildings every year. So how do we keep that? How do we sustain that? What's the system we have in place to support it? Those are our instructional coaches. So the role of instructional coaches, and I'll say we or they, either way, because I am one of them, is sustaining teachers' professional learning and ongoing growth to positively impact student learning. That's the goal. We support teachers in their learning so they can support students, and we increase student learning and achievement. We designed building and district level professional learning. That slide at the beginning that had all of the list of the way that we learn, the instructional coaches are pretty involved in a lot of those pieces. And then also doing individual or team, teaching team coaching cycles where teachers will identify, hey, this is an area that I'm not really feeling right now. I'd like to work on it. It's not quite as successful as I'd like it to be. We come together, we come up with some resources, figure out ways to tackle that problem, try it out. Did it work? We measure, and then we see where we go from here. Beyond the work that we do specifically with teachers, we monitor the curricular program, implementation, and the systematic needs. So we bring in a program, how's it going in the buildings? We're the feet on the ground who kind of can get eyes on that and say, oh, we might need some additional training in this specific component. We are the bridge between administrative goals and classroom implementation because we are standing next to teachers, supporting them as they implement these programs and changes that happen all the time in education. I will just give a quick highlight that our professional learning this year as an instructional coach team, and we are led by Nikki Donato, just to give her a shout out, is student-centered coaching. So focusing really on the student evidence as the output of the work that we do with teachers and how are we measuring growth along the way. So all of that to say that I want to really connect back to Ms. Shade's fun fact from the end of our last board meeting, because she mentioned that in the 1880s, I think, is that correct, there was a normal school in Newville. And if you don't have a background in education, you might not know that a normal school is a school that trains teachers. That's what a normal school did. So it is really, really incredible to think that for the past 150 years, we have had this really solid foundation of teacher learning that happens in Newville. And it's all done to support our students. That's the goal. As professionals, we continue growing and we continue improving. So thankfully for everyone, you won't have to hear from Lauren and I for all of these meetings. We are going to have a building-specific focus from each of the 5 buildings. It's about monthly throughout the rest of the school year, and you're going to hear from faculty and you're going to hear from students about their learning and their experiences and what's happening in Big Spring classrooms. At this point, do you have any questions?
First of all, thank you both for your presentation. A lot of words that I recognized, and I'm sure the board did, but a lot of things happening very quickly. I think it's great that you're constantly wanting to grow, wanting to enhance your own ability, that you're not stagnant in the curriculum, that you're not stagnant in your teaching abilities for all BSEA and all the staff. So I commend you for doing that. We want you to continue to do that, continue to grow and help our students prepare for their future and their success. Does any of the board have any comments or questions? Thank you very much. Thank you to all of our teachers and administrators and everyone that makes it happen each day. Reading of correspondence. Do we have any this evening, Dr. Narte? Thank you. Recognition of visitors. We ask that everyone is signed in on the clipboard this evening. We'd like to know who's here. And we thank each of you for coming. It is important that you're here. It is important that we hear you. It's important that you know what's happening at the board level. So at this time, I'll move into public comment period. Mr. John McCrary is here to present. John? Thank you for coming, sir.
You're welcome. Tonight I'm going to read to you the letter to the editor, which I composed and sent to the Valley Times-Star yesterday, and which will appear in the Wednesday paper. So hear it tonight, read it on Wednesday. After the October 7 Big Spring School Board meeting, newspapers should have published a version of the following headline: Local School Board hires election-denying law firm. In ordinary times, they would not have done that. In ordinary times, the fact that Dylan McCandless had worked on 4 lawsuits for the Trump campaign, attempting to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election, 4 lawsuits unsupported by any facts and not based upon any valid legal principles. 4 lawsuits that failed, all of which failed spectacularly, would have been morally disqualifying. These, however, are not ordinary times, are they? As Mr. Paine wrote in December of 1776, these are the times that try men's souls. We're not living in ordinary times, I said. We're living in what we can only hope are the last days of the megaverse. In these days, legal ethics take a back seat to legal profits. The Butler law firm couldn't wait to deposit those fee checks. I would not be surprised if they were already on retainer to the Trump campaign to pull the same stunts around the 2024 election that they did in 2020. The right to counsel guaranteed by our Constitution does not extend to efforts to subvert that very document. Let me repeat that for the benefit of Mrs. Booth. The right to counsel guaranteed by our Constitution does not extend to efforts to subvert that very document. Lawyers cannot, consistent with their ethical obligations, participate in devising litigation that is retrofitted to support the position Trump seems to hold, that the only real Americans are those who cast their ballots for him, and that those who vote against him are, by definition, engaging in fraud. It is too much to expect that the 6 members in favor of the law firm from Butler will reverse their really dumb votes. The community, however, can keep pressure on these 6 so that their predominant feelings will be not satisfaction, but rather acute embarrassment. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any more public comment first? Thank you. Approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the committee of the whole meeting minutes, the board meeting minutes for October 7th, 2024 as presented? Thank you, Mr. Corman. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Shade. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I assume everyone's voting in the affirmative to approve the minutes unless I hear a negative or abstaining. Next, we'll move into financial reports. Mr. Shade, treasurer, please.
The payment of bills, the general fund procurement card, $18,047.17. General fund, checks, ACH and wires, $4,923,200.32. Special revenue, $1,446.96. Capital Projects Reserve Fund, $1,009,558.30. ESCO Fund, $0.00. Cafeteria Fund, $119,706.92. Student Activities, $29,325.08. Total amount of all funds, $6,101,284.75. Motion to approve the payment of bills as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Shade. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Corman. Any discussion?
Yes, good fund. That will no longer be on the account from here on out.
note came in to council.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I assume everyone's voting in the affirmative on the payment of bills unless I hear a negative or abstain. Moving on to 7B, Treasurer's Fund Report. Each of those reports are noted and will be looked at further down the line for any corrections. 7C, Year-to-Date General Fund Report and Year-to-Date Taxes. The administration prepared the Year-to-Date General Fund Report and Year-to-Date Taxes for the board. The General Fund Report looks at our revenue and expenses for this year. The Year-to-Date General Fund and Tax Report are noted. Old business. Do we have any old business from the floor? Hearing none, moving on to new business. Unless there is an objection, we will combine new business personnel action items listed under number 9 into one motion. That will be number 9A, 9B, and 9C. Do I have any objection? Hearing none, I assume everyone's voting in the affirmative on the personnel action items. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel action items, please? Motion, Mr. Shea. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Corman. Any discussion? Hearing none, I assume that everyone's voting in the affirmative on the personnel action items unless I hear a negative or abstain. Moving on to 10A, new business action item. I do have a correction, and that is the midget football is requesting the use of the high school commons on December 15th, 2024, not November 10th, 2024. We have approval of property utilization by the midget football. The post-grad 2025's the high school commons on December 8th for a holiday craft show. Please support that. And Mike Cleanan, on behalf of Junior Olympic Wrestling, we're requesting the use of the high school commons and gym on January 22nd for a dual meet. That's on Sunday. And also on 10A, the next page, Adam Noble, on behalf of the musical, is requesting the use of the high school commons and auditorium March 13th to the 16th for the spring musical. All of those are Sunday days as other days, so they do require board approval. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the utilization request as presented. Do I have a motion, please? Motion, Mr. Corman, second. Second, Mr. Shea. Any discussion from the floor? Hearing none, I assume everyone's voting in the affirmative unless I hear a negative or abstain. 10B, approval to create a new student activity account. Mr. Penner, Director of Athletics and Student Activities, is requesting permission to create a new student activity account for the Big Spring Student Athletic Leadership Council and has drafted bylaws to become a recognized high school club. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the bylaws and the new student activity account as presented. Do I have a motion, please? Motion, Mr. Shea, second. Mr. Corman, any discussion from the floor? Mr. Hippinsdale?
The bylaws, should they be reviewed by our solicitor?
Mr. King, the question is the bylaws for a new club under the Big Spring Student Athletic Leadership Council. Would you recommend they're reviewed by you, the solicitor, or is that not necessary?
I'd be happy to take a look at it.
Okay. So, would you like to take that?
Yeah, I'd like to table.
I have a motion to table the bylaws portion of this motion. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Shea. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, we're only voting to table the bylaws portion at this point, then we'll revert back to the main motion. If I hear no discussion, then I am taking a vote to table the bylaws portion. I assume everyone's voting in the affirmative unless I hear a negative or abstaining. Motion carries. We'll now go back to the main motion, omitting the bylaws out of the main motion. Main motion is to create a new student activity account with the Big Spring Student Athlete Leadership Council, and the bylaws could follow later. I had a motion in second. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, I assume everyone's voting in the affirmative of creating a new student activity account for the Big Spring Student Athlete Leadership Council, unless I hear a negative or abstain. Moving on to 10C, recommended approval of student travel. Mr. Pennant, Director of Athletics and Student Activities, FBLA Leadership Workshop at Mount Pocono, FBLA Region 26 Leadership Conference at Shippensburg University, FBLA State Conference at Hershey Lodge Convention Center, and FBLA National Leadership Conference in Anaheim, California, June 29th to July 2nd. It's an overnight. Do I have a motion to, administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the student travel and participation as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Corman. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Shea. Any discussion from the floor? Hearing none, I assume everyone's voting in the affirmative on the student travel for FBLA, unless I hear a negative or abstaining. 10D, for Sinais Middle School Principal, recommends approval of the following fundraiser, a salsa fundraiser to benefit the middle school chorus. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Corman. Any discussion? Hearing none, I assume everyone's voting in the affirmative unless I hear a negative or abstaining. Another 10B, Mr. Pennant recommends gift wrapping November 25th through December 20th to benefit the high school ILS student shopping class trip. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the fundraiser as presented. Do I have a motion? Motion, Mr. Shea. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Corman. Any discussion? Hearing none, I assume everyone votes in the, excuse me, question? It was already voted on? Okay, I just didn't include that in my discussion. So it's already been voted on. Okay, then we're good. 10E is a case involving a student. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors exclude the student in case B for the remainder of the 24-25 school year as presented. Do I have a motion to approve case B?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Corman. Do I have a second? Second, there is no discussion on this because it's a student matter, unless anyone has an objection. Hearing none, I assume everyone's voting in the affirmative unless I hear a negative or abstaining. Moving on to 10F. Nicole Donato, Director of Curriculum, received a request for the following teacher to apply for a grant. Jenna McIntyre, Middle School Ag Teacher, is requesting permission to apply for the 2025 Environmental Education Grant and the FFA Foundation Learning by Doing Grant. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve Mrs. McIntyre's request. Do I have a motion, please? Motion, Mr. Shea. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Corman. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, I assume everyone's voting in the affirmative unless I hear a negative or abstaining. Dr. Durante, Superintendent of Schools, has received the following proposals, services: Wonder Media Story Maker, use of the Wonder Media tools for educational purposes, and Pillar XP LLC subscription based on service track managed and improve educational outcomes. The administration is recommending the Board of School Directors approve the partnership with the companies as presented. Do I have a motion, please? Motion, Mr. Shea. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Corman. Do I have discussion? Mr. Shea?
I am going to request that we table the Wonder Media portion. I've requested some additional information on that. There's kind of two portions wrapped into one here. One is we pay somewhere around $5,000 for the Wonder Media tools, which includes 4 students and 1 teacher working on a project to create a movie through this program with other school districts. The subject matter of the movie is very torn, and I've had 2 different, on the same email, there's 2 different ideas as to what the main topic of the movie is. So until we can have some further clarification on that, I think that should be tabled. But the pillar, I would be okay with moving forward on. So motion to table the Wonder Media story portion.
Can I have a motion to table just the Wonder Media Story Maker? Do I have a second to table that portion?
Second.
second by Mr. Corman. Do we have discussion from the floor? Mr. Shade?
Dr. Grunty, is there a time period if we table this? Would it?
Yes, they'll eliminate us from participation. They actually, the Grable Foundation is the one that initiates this in Pittsburgh. They actually had the 16 of the 17 school districts that are participating in an auditorium today, getting geared up for it. They've offered the invitation to us because of an affiliation that I have with Mr. Thorne. If the thread is SEL based, it's not SEL based. It's story based, it's scientific principles, and it is what Big Spring drives it today. And that information has been provided.
It's my understanding that the students actually create the story.
That is correct. We control that, but they created the parameters.
So if we table, then we would not have the opportunity to participate, is that correct?
That is correct, and it would effectively eliminate the story maker option that we are getting for free on the backside of it.
Okay. So currently we have a motion and a second to lay it on the table. If we lay it on the table, we will not be able to participate in the future. Do we have any more discussion from the floor? Are we ready to vote? Okay, so if you vote in the affirmative, then you're voting to lay it on the table and it would be eliminated as an option. If you vote no, then we would let it be back in the main motion and we would see if the main motion passes. Does everybody understand? Okay, I assume everyone's voting to table Wonder Media Storymaker, unless I hear a negative or abstaining, which would in a sense eliminate it as an option. I hear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 no's. Those in favor of eliminating and laying it on the table, vote please. And we had 1 in table, so the vote is 5 to 1. It will not be tabled, so we will now go back to the main motion, which includes Wonder Media Storymaker and the Pillar XP, which we had a motion and a second for. Do I have more discussion on these two items? All right, now we'll proceed to vote. Yes, Mr. Farmer.
The Wonder Media Storymaker part, is that a selected group of students that are going to be participating in that storyline?
That is correct, yeah. We will, if we get approval, then we'll work towards the student selection piece.
So it would be volunteer based?
That's correct. No forced entry whatsoever.
Right, thank you.
Any more discussion or questions? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving Wonder Media Storymaker and the Pillar XP LLC subscription, I assume is voting in the affirmative unless I hear a negative or abstaining. Both of those are approved. Yeah, we probably should note, Mr. David Fisher was not here this evening. He had a prior commitment, and Mr. Myers unfortunately had to leave. I'm not sure why, that's his personal decision, but we are down to only 7 board members present at this time. Okay, moving into new business information items. These items are not being voted on this evening, they are just information. We have a leave request. We have contracted staff. Dr. Morante provides ESS contracted staff update. Dr. Sanders, Assistant Superintendent, provides the following ESS contracted staff updates. We'll now move into board reports. Athletic Council, Mr. Fisher, please.
Next meeting, December 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Building and Property Committee, Mr. David Fisher is not with us. Mr. Hippensteel, do you have anything to add? We have a meeting on November 18th before the board meeting. There is one November 18th.
Oh, there is?
Yes, which would be before the next meeting. It was on the calendar, I think, for the district.
Mr. Minnick's clarifying, we're not out of our mind.
That was already scheduled, so we did say that we would make up.
So that'll be the first initial, or our first meeting that we're supposed to have.
Correct.
No, November 18th was already on the schedule.
Okay.
So
Okay, so November 18th will be the next building and property committee meeting. Thank you, Mr. Evansdale. Mr. Farmer, capital area intermediate unit.
Next meeting is on the 24th, and it starts at 8 a.m.
Thank you. Cumberland Area CTC, myself, next meeting is October 28th, which is next Monday. I'll be present at that meeting. We are diligently discussing the project and helping it grow forward. We did make an investment as a district in that, but there is some things they're trying to rebid it and change the design. So we're working towards that. I will say that Dr. Durante is also involved with the superintendent in that process. The DIG committee, Julie Booth, please. Julie reports the next meeting is listed for December 16th at 6 p.m. Correct, Julie? Thank you. Julie Booth Finance Committee meeting was not able to be held this evening, but the next one is December 16th. Do you have anything to add, Mrs. Booth? Thank you. Again, we apologize that the Finance Committee meeting could not happen this evening. Policy Review and Development Committee, Mr. Foreman.
We forwarded 2 policies to the solicitor and then voted to forward 1 policy to the board for next meeting. So that would be policy 004.1.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Foreman. Does anything need reviewed at this time by the solicitor?
We voted to send 2 policies to the solicitor at 903 and then 220. I figured what number was.
Okay.
235?
235.
Thank you. So, Mr. King, you have a little work to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. South Central Trust, Mr. Foreman.
Nothing at this time.
Tax Collection Committee, Mr. Fisher's not here. The next meeting date was October 15th, so I think that's passed. Wellness Committee, Mr. Foreman, anything?
I have nothing for the Wellness Committee at this time. I'm just, I don't have a schedule for the Wellness Committee, so if Dr. Bronte can get a schedule for that sometime.
Very good. Future board agenda items from the floor. Superintendent's report, Dr. Bronte, please.
Certainly. Tomorrow, 11 FFA students will depart for the National Convention in Indianapolis and return on Saturday, so they're looking forward to a wonderful week of experience and competition. The middle school conducted its spelling bee. Congratulations to the following individuals. First, Rachel Collins. Second, Amir Gabbard. Third, Wyatt Byers. And fourth, Sydney Getz. The middle school and high school, MBS, life skills and learning support students participated in Special Olympics at Dickinson College. That was a wonderful experience and absolutely beautiful weather for that particular event. The elementary schools participated in Fire Prevention Week. So if you heard a bunch of sirens and some big trucks rolling around, there was a lot of excited kids out there in the front lawns. Mount Hawk is immersed in a Think Bigger program for the IU, and that is scientifically based, and they are currently studying renewable energy. Volleyball will host the first ever district playoff game here tomorrow night against Dover. So come out and root our volleyball team on. Congratulations to them. Boys cross country and all 4 individual girls qualified for the District 3 championships for cross country. That will be hosted here on Saturday. And the football team currently holds the last qualifying spot for the district playoffs. Friday, we had an excellent event that culminated in a hurricane relief effort. The Tempest Club, FFA, Dog Pound, Student Council, National Honor Society, as well as the greater education community and a lot of community partnerships, donated 2 truckloads of supplies to go down to North Carolina. And we're going to conclude our evening with some news footage that was shot on Friday and some good news to depart on. So, Mr. Krebs, if you have that video, let's go ahead with it.
It's Friday night football for Big Spring High School. The cost of admission, give you back.
Free admission if you bring a bag of supplies to help out someone else.
Over the last week, the Big Spring School District has collected truckloads of supplies from community members and organizations, helping neighbors they've never met.
We are helping the hurricane that happened in North Carolina.
Hurricane Helene robbed thousands of their livelihoods. putting life into perspective for those like Scott Anderson.
I'm fortunate. I can go home to my house. It's warm, it's dry. I can go to the fridge, I can open it up, there's food. I mean, I can go leave my bed. There are people right now who are worried, where are their loved ones? You know, where am I going to sleep tonight? You know, where's my life going to go?
A lesson he's helping impart to students like Emma Rice who are celebrating their senior night.
My heart goes out to them because they don't have the opportunity to experience a football game right now or anything like that because they're just dealing with a disaster or what happened.
With more than a dozen community organizations teaming up and individual donors dropping supplies off, Rice says sharing the wealth doesn't have to break the bank.
We just had people that just donated one thing of Clorox wipes. Just that little thing it goes a long way, and I don't think people realize that.
Which is why in a community that's not a dime a dozen,
People are people, they need our help, and so we want to step in to help whether we know them or not. And I think it's really great. This is what I love about Midville.
making a difference is invaluable. Cindy Nauman, Fox 43 News.
I think that really demonstrates the Big Spring community spirit. It's a wonderful event. Mr. Shetron, Mr. McCullough donated supplies, drivers. Mr. Piper, former board member, was involved as well. So a wonderful experience for the kids and for the greater community at large.
I'd like to dovetail on top of that. Not only did we send one truck from the school district, which was tremendous, and I was able to help collect some of the supplies on Thursday afternoon, but Penn Township Fire Company also collected a tractor trailer load that went this morning. Giant Food was a big supporter. They put 16 pallets on. The fire company was able to collect over 14 pallets of food from the local community, generators, mops, water, all kinds of stuff. And that all was loaded on Sunday, and it went down this morning. I believe it left for Carolina. On top of that, a Franklin County Fire Company donated a fire truck, and our fire company, which you're part of, because you support activities at our local fire companies, filled that fire truck with coats, air packs, tools, hose, and other things that we were able to support that. So they got a fire truck. When they took it off, as soon as they learned how to drive it, it was ready to roll. So it takes a couple people to get an idea, and that idea can grow. We were hoping to fill one tractor trailer. As it is, we filled two. And there's another truck in the area that's also I saw on Facebook, being loaded in the next couple of weeks to try to send a third truck in. So congratulations to any of you who supported it and are still on. Thank you, Dr. Grande, for the career report. Anything else?
No, sir.
Thank you. Business from the floor. Board member comments. Mr. Corman.
Just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Mr. Ken Fisher.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Over. Mrs. Shea.
I've got something to say. For anyone who missed in early September, I decided to start taking this opportunity to share some fun facts and information. Tonight, it's not going to be as fun as it was last week. I have more information. This is segment number 4. This evening, I chose to touch on the topic of policies. For anyone unaware, the policies are located on the district website. You'll need to look for the school board page and then select the drop-down box for school board info, and then select the school board policies tab. As many are aware, our policy committee was approved on June 3rd. At the first committee meeting, Mrs. Booth reported that only 7 out of the 249 policies were currently up to date by the PSBA standards. PSBA recommends for policies to be reviewed every 3 years, except for a few annual policies, and we had 7 policies that were a little more than 10 years without review. I would like to encourage everyone to attend the policy committee meetings when you can, and when you can't, follow along with the agenda and meeting minutes. One of the policies currently working its way through the committee is policy 903. This policy covers public participation in board meetings. I'd also like to point out a little bit of the information regarding the current 903 on public participation. Participants must complete a public comment card in its entirety to be recognized by the presiding officer, and all statements must be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question board members individually. And I'll stop there. The current presiding officer is President Wardle. Since all statements must be directed to President Wardle, if a statement or question is directed to an individual member, please know if you do not receive an answer, it's because the board is following policy. Lastly, I'd like to encourage anyone interested to pick a different policy and quickly review prior to each meeting. It only takes a few minutes of your time, and after several meetings, you'll have educated yourself on several policies. I realize my fun facts and informational segment is hard for everyone, but I am hopeful that some of you appreciate the information. Thanks, and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Mrs. Shea. Mr. Hickenstill? Mrs. Booth?
I'd just like to thank Ms. Morantz and Ms. Hetrick for the lovely presentation. It's nice to get an update on what you guys are doing. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Booth. As we close this evening, we're also closing the first marking period. 45 days are almost done, with 135 still to go. We're approaching the holiday period. I remember that well as a teacher, in that it's a challenge to keep on track. We have Thanksgiving, Christmas break, and New Year's, and all those fun things, but we also have to keep working towards the goal of education, so that all of our students receive a successful education. But we've already got done with homecoming, fall sports are almost finished, fire prevention, and hundreds of other activities that our teachers have motivated our students to do. We are thankful for that. And as we approach Thanksgiving, I know each of us can be thankful for each person that makes a difference in our students each day. Whether it's a bus driver, a custodian, a substitute teacher, an administrator, or an instructional coach, and everybody in between, we can be thankful for all of our school staff. Thank you very much. Thanks for your attendance. Do I have a motion to adjourn, please? Motion, Mr. Shea. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Farman. There is no discussion. Have a great evening. I declare the meeting adjourned unless I hear a negative or abstain. Thank you. Have a good evening.